I have 2 children, and sadly, after I'd given birth, my body stopped producing serotonin, which happens in all mothers. It's called the baby blues, and some people very lucky and don't get it. Maybe they get it for an hour after the baby's born, or sometimes they get it for a day or even a week, and it's nothing more than that. For me, it didn't happen, but as soon as I stopped breastfeeding, my body just went and the serotonin stopped being produced, and then that's then diagnosed as postnatal depression. So I came into contact with NHS Wales, obviously, when they diagnosed me, and then went on to receive medication, and I have since had various other support to help me and support me, not all of it through the NHS, sadly, and due to, well, various varying reasons really. When you've taken enough courage to recognise that there's a problem, and in my instance it took quite a while to recognise that there was a problem, and realising I couldn't do this anymore and there's something wrong, this isn't normal, this isn't normal anxiety and, just stages of being a first time mum, because everyone gets very anxious. I had to go into my GP and self-diagnose. Now, I found that extremely difficult, and because of my condition at the time, being very teary, being quite confused, very emotional, because serotonin levels balance your mood, your anxiety, your perception of things, all your emotions basically. It's like little oil and water levels. We've all got them, and serotonin is the one that separates the oil and water out. And when you've given birth, obviously with volatile labour, they all get shook up and they balance down after. But if your body's stopped producing serotonin, which happens in the gut, then due to trauma, which birth is, then they don't level off. So that's my condition. When I get care, as in face-to-face care, the care is superb. I've lived abroad, and it really makes you appreciate the NHS. We have the best, without doubt. So all these statistics, I can only speak from my own personal experience, but living abroad, we don't have to pay for it. So when you're sick, you don't have the anxiety, do I have enough money to go to see my GP? I'm not paying £50 a time, because that's how much you pay abroad anywhere. And then your follow-up care, they give you a bit of a discount, it's about 30 quid a time. And then you've got to pay your medicine on top. Now, if you're on long-term medication like I have been, all of a sudden, where are you going to get that money from? And that increase, obviously, that would increase anxiety and stress. And with any medical condition, if you're suffering with stress, because of money worries, then that's going to hinder your recovery. No matter whether you broke your leg or it doesn't matter what it is. So we are extremely fortunate that we've got this NHS system in place. And like my age group, even my parents, it was my grandparents, that I was able to swap stories with when I lived abroad, because they never had an NHS. So they truly understand. And I think current generations, we've just become ignorant to it, and we don't pass the stories on, so we don't value what we've got. And it's that classic, you don't value it until it's gone. So I'm incredibly supportive of the NHS. However, just like anything, there's lots of things that need changing. So I think more knowledge, more training definitely needs to be put in place, not only for diagnosing and treating patients, but also understanding it on a personal level, because in UK we work the longest hours in Europe and sometimes in the world, and the UK is one of the most stressful countries going because of all the hours we work. I know very little people, even if they haven't been diagnosed with mental health, who hasn't turned around and said, I was so stressed out, oh my God, I so needed that holiday because I just couldn't function anymore. That is mental health, but we have an old adage of smile, it's the way you think, it's about positive thinking. There is a little element of that, don't get me wrong, but that's when you're just feeling stressed about day-to-day work. Pull your socks up, you'll feel better. If it was that easy, trust me, we'd all do it. I think it's an amazing service. I would be absolutely distraught if I thought we'd lose it in any way, shape or form. You know, it's every element of taxpayers or funding or anything we can do as a society to pull together to keep this in place benefits us all. There is no point in anyone's life that they do not seek some sort of medical care, whether it be because they're giving birth to a child, they're having an optical exam for their eyes, you know, they've had an accident, you know, it can be anything. And, you know, not necessarily that you're sick all the time. My son hurt his shoulder recently, you know, playing a sports game. So you can trip over the pavement outside. You'll go. It's so essential. You never know when it's got what's around the corner. And also I've seen people who are affluent and have gone not affluent and vice versa. You know, you don't want to be in that position. I've lived in a country where I had young children, and we had to pay to go and see the doctor and pay for medication, and it's another level of stress that's an anxiety, and what will result in is people won't look after themselves, they'll misdiagnose themselves, and then it could result in fatalities, it could result in conditions getting a lot worse when they could have been solved quite quickly, all because they're actually thinking about money and not about patient care and getting themselves well. And society, I think, is a better place if we're all well than if half of us are pondering around sick.